Hello, my name is Basil Zaider, immigration consultant at Encubate. In this show, we're going to discuss express entry and pathway to Canadian immigration through education and how you can take a whole journey of coming to Canada as an international student and then completing the life cycle until you become a permanent resident. So, express entry is a system. It is not an actual program. Now, inside Express Entry, there are various programs or different categories that you can apply for to receive your permanent residence status in Canada. Now, based on the work experience that you have or you have obtained, regardless if it's outside or inside Canada, you could qualify for different programs. For an example, if your work experience was obtained from outside Canada, you could qualify for the Federal Skilled Worker Program. If your work experience was obtained inside Canada, you could qualify for the Canadian Experience Class, or CEC for short. There are different ways to obtain Canadian work experience. In 2014 and 2015 onwards, we started seeing a shift in the government's interest when it comes to international students. The government have noticed that international students make the best immigrants when it comes to integration into the country, increased level of language proficiency, and obtaining also Canadian experience in terms of lifestyle or even work. With that comes certain privileges that the government gave for international students in order to get more points in the express entry system. So, how can you convert your student status over a circle or a process you would go through until you receive your permanent resident status in Canada? Here's how it goes. You come to Canada as a student, then you complete your education, then you work in Canada, then you apply for permanent residence. The key point here is the work. For you to get eligible work experience under the express entry system and CEC, it has to be work experience obtained under legal status, but not as a student. So the experience you get as a student, in some cases you'll be able to work part-time while you have a study permit in Canada. That work experience does not qualify for immigration. It's what you do post-graduation or after you complete a course in Canada. There is a work permit category called the post-graduation work permit, or PGWP for short. A post-graduation work permit is a work permit issued for an international student, and the maximum duration of this work permit is 3 years. The minimum duration is 8 months, and this is going to be based on the length of your study in Canada. For example, if you study in Canada for 8 months, you get a postgraduate work permit for 8 months. You study for 2 years, you get a PGWP for 2, 3, and you get 3. Maximum of 3. Now, a PGWP is going to be based on a specific eligibility when it comes to the educational institute that you graduated from. So not every educational institute, or also they're called the Designated Learning Institute, DLIs for short, not every DLI is eligible for this. Mainly public colleges and universities are eligible for the post-graduation work permit category. Private colleges are not, or the majority of private colleges are not. There are certain exceptions in the law that allows certain private colleges operating under public college regulations to be able to qualify for post-graduation work permits. So the most important thing that you need to do is pick the right program for your education at the right location. And then the second most important thing is the length of your program. Do you need a 1-year program, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, in order for you to also calculate the number of work experience years that you need to obtain in Canada to proceed with your permanent residence application. Not everybody require only 1 year of study, 1 year of work. Some require more. because the English or French language proficiency level varies from person to person. Same thing as age, same thing as well as the foreign work experience, marital status, etc. etc. There are more than one factor that affect international students or applicants that want to go through express entry. So it's not that there's only one rule, one law that says you do this and that's the outcome. No, you have to assess yourself to see how many years of Canadian work experience do I require in order for me to apply for permanent residency, and based on that, you come up with your study plan and you say, well, I need to work for 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years, whatnot, and then based on that, you pick your education and also the length of your study. So, you study and you get your PGWP. Now, if you have a spouse, if you're married, if you have a common law partner, and you are an international student, your spouse could potentially qualify for something called an open work permit. Same as the PGWP when it comes to eligibility. Only public colleges and universities are qualified for this program, and some private colleges that operate under public college regulations. Your spouse will be able to get an open work permit while you're studying full-time and potentially working part-time. Now, your experience as a student is not going to qualify, so this is gone. Your spouse's experience, on the other hand, is under an open work permit, meaning that could potentially qualify for immigration. So this is another option you can have as an international student. If you're planning to come in and study full-time, your spouse can accompany you. Your spouse would be bringing in financial income and working full-time to support the family, and at the same time, your spouse's experience could qualify for immigration under the CEC class. So, unmarried, you need to think about studying, and then after that, working and applying for permanent residence. If you are married, or if you have a spouse or have a common law partner, then you need to think about who wants to become the principal applicant, and then based on your education, you either wait until you get your postgraduate work permit, or your spouse can get an open work permit. So, you study in Canada, you work in Canada, and then you apply for permanent residence, and then you can proceed with the next steps to citizenship. What's very interesting is the Citizenship Act was changed in 2017, so the number of days that you spend as an international student would qualify up to 1 year at half a day per day towards your citizenship. In other words, if you were a student for 2 years, that 2 years will be counted at half a rate, meaning 1 year, and this year will apply towards your citizenship. What does that mean? That means if you're a student for 2 years, you work for 1 year, you apply for permanent residence, you become a permanent resident for 2 years, and then you can go ahead and apply for your citizenship after 2 years of becoming a permanent resident, not 3. Now, to become a citizen, you need to be a permanent resident for 3 years and then apply for citizenship. But if you had any temporary resident status before becoming a permanent resident, now that qualifies, or it's actually, you can use that for the citizenship obligations when it comes to obtaining a passport in Canada. Just to summarize, pathway to immigration through education is one of the most suitable options for young professionals who want to come to Canada, study, work, and become permanent residents and continue with their journey later on in Canada. Pick the right programs, pick the right colleges, pick the right universities, understand your requirements when it comes to immigration. Check the express entry system to see how many points you need to have in order to qualify for immigration, and know your obligations and your rights since the beginning before you even pick your educational programs. We have seen many students come to Canada and then they start thinking about immigration after the fact. Problem is, at that point, it's too late. At that point, you've already spent thousands of dollars on your education and your time, and all that could potentially go down the drain, and you have to start all over again because the initial program, or the initial university or college you attended did not qualify for the PGWP category. to learn more about the details of immigration when it comes to express entry and CEC and all that, feel free to contact us on the information available on the screen. And also, if you'd like to watch any of the other shows that we have and which we discuss in depth the other categories of immigration, we're here to assist, we're here to help. So we're more than happy to hear from you. Thank you